Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Plays of Jared, the Stanley Parable. I had to discontinue my last series because for some reason there was a huge frame rate drop in my video recorder when I tried to record it, and if I had continued with it, it would have lagged to the point that it probably might have crashed my computer if I would have tried to do it. So I decided to discontinue that and start up a new video series on the Stanley Parable. This game I found through a couple other YouTubers. I decided I wanted to do it since it was a very small file and wouldn't run too slow with Bandicam. So, without further ado, let's begin. Oh, also, I think there's about 6 or 7 endings to this. I don't know. I only watched one video and it showed me like the very first ending, which is a good ending. So let's see where this takes us.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor next to his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on a monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and walked out into the hallway.
So far I've liked this mod. First time I played it through.
Stanley decided to go to the staff lounge to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
So yeah, I'm going to try not to talk during commentary from the main story, just so I don't over talk on the story of it, since that way it'd make it more enjoyable. But yeah, I've liked the mod so far. I've played through it one time, mostly the good ending, just to test the frame rates. So after that, I'll check out the other endings.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
And one thing I do like about this game is it is story-driven, but you have free roam on what you can go through. You can choose your own path, and each one has a different outcome, apparently. So, like I said, I'll go through the rest of the endings and walkthroughs in my next videos.
As Stanley entered the lounge, he was horrified to find not a single person here. He decided he would walk up to see his boss, hoping that he would find an answer there.
So, yeah, they used a lot of computer and monitor textures from the Half-Life 2 series, but Other than that, I like how they laid it out. It's very well put together so far.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Entering his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. It was at this point that he began to feel dizzy and a little sick, and even thought he might pass out when suddenly he noticed a keypad next to the filing cabinet in the corner of his boss's office. Stanley had never seen this panel before and had no idea what combination of numbers would produce any result. In fact, only Stanley's boss knew this, since the panel withheld access to the boss's greatest, darkest secret. And so he had assigned the keypad a combination that only he could possibly know. The number of his freshman dorm number in college, 1957. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Let's see, is it 2546? Nope, let's try 1957.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck.
Yeah, that's luck, all right.
Stanley ventured forth into the newly opened passageway. As he drew deeper into the bowels of the building, Stanley had no idea where he was or what this place held. And just as he began to think he might not discover a thing, he emerged into a long room to find rows and rows of monitors, screens with a number above it. Stanley noticed, however, that these were not random numbers, but the number of employees who worked in the building, his co-workers. Even his own number, 427, had a place on the wall. But why a setup so elaborate, he asked. Was this simple surveillance or something even more? And as if in answer to his question, the wall slid open before him, revealing the ultimate truth of the situation.
So apparently his boss is some kind of sick pervert that watches everything he does.
An enormous control panel, Stanley discovered, but not one that controlled simple machinery. Buttons were labeled with emotions. Happy, sad. Levers and knobs controlled actions. Walking, eating, doing work, or watching TV. Every input on this device monitored not the functions of a machine, but of a human being. And the reality began to sink in. Stanley, like so many other people, reduced to images on a monitor, had been under someone's control, always at the mercy of this machine. Could this have been the only reason employee number 427 was content with his boring job? That a machine had altered his emotions to accept it blindly? He began to feel an unbridled rage, and at the peak of his anger, something happened. A spark. Stanley looked up and saw the generator overhead, still providing some small amount of power to the machine, keeping it alive. And knowing that this generator was all that kept the controls running, Stanley moved to the ladder in the back of the room and began to climb towards the rafters.
So I was right, his boss is some kind of sick pervert. I mean, he's watching all these people and controlling what they do, controls when they take showers, probably watches them do that, tells them when to go to the bathroom, probably watches them do that. You can probably guess what else he probably tells them to do.
The higher Stanley climbed, the closer he felt to freedom, the further from enslavement.
So this would be two different endings here. I'm going to go with the best ending possible first, just so we can get that out of the way.
Blackness, power gone, all alone, and then